Welcome back to First Year in Medical Device Sales. Today is going to be a dual podcast because we have a guest today that he's going to be able to hit on a lot, whether it's you're breaking into medical device sales or you're actually in medical device sales. He's a surgeon. He has over 10 years experience of actual operating. Now he leads at Innovis Medical, great company, by the way, where he is the clinical excellence lead. We're continuing to grow. Today, I have David Rawaf. I've been practicing that name for the last 5 minutes because, as you guys know, I'm not the best with pronunciation and I can't say my R's. But, David, great to have you on the show.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me. I hope I can answer some of your questions today.
Yeah, I know you're going to be able to provide value. If you guys see this, we actually just hit a workout. If you guys know anything about me, you know that I like to work out, former personal trainer. And David is my workout buddy at Innovis. We always are hitting the gyms. If you guys have watched the vlog, you've seen him come in and hit a workout with me.
I think we've hit gyms in 5 different time zones now?
Yeah, right now, yeah, I think so.
Something like that. I'm really quite proud of that.
We always take our selfie, make sure to send it to the group, and they like to tell us that we have a bromance going on or something like that.
They're just jealous.
Exactly. No, but today why I'm so excited to bring David to you all is, like I said, David is an actual practicing surgeon, and now he's leading us at Innovis Medical, but he has so much experience of being a surgeon, working with reps, working with the people inside the industry. And so real quick, before we'll dive in all that, want you guys just to get a little background so you can hear more about David. And then we're going to go into more of what he looks for in his reps, what he's seen, because you have peers that are surgeons, what they like about reps or what they don't like, because I know there's certain things you can do to not be the best name in the room. So yeah, before we dive too far into it, can you just kind of give us a little bit of background? I know there's going to be a lot of people in the UK who actually already know who you are, but for the people back in the US, can you kind of just give a little background about who you are?
Sounds good. Thanks, man. Thank you for giving me the platform. So my background is in medicine and surgery. I trained as a medic. I did a pre-medical degree beforehand. I dabbled in medical school politics during my time at medical school. Discovered there was lots of things that needed correcting in education. So I discovered very early on that education and surgery are some of my core values. And as I went through medical training, I knew that surgery was the direction I wanted to go in. Being a bit of a closet engineer is the political way I put it. I always quite liked being hands-on, and I think one of the things that attracted me to surgery were the tools, and especially in surgery was orthopedics. I loved just the sheer amount of tools that we're using. I was always tinkering with, woodwork or even mechanical work when I was younger. So orthopedics just fit right in for my personality. Despite me not being your average orthopedic surgeon, apparently, that's what I'm told. Nonetheless, I still got to the point where now I'm working as a locum registrar for you Americans. That's a moonlighting registrar, or moonlighting attending would be, I guess, the equivalent. And I focus mainly now in the industry. Mm-hmm. I discovered in the last about 4 or 5 years that innovation, technology, are my core values as well as surgery and education.
Yep.
And certainly in between, I've been working in the world of academia with various institutions around the world. But I realized that I really was quite passionate about innovation. There were multiple points throughout my career where I was doing an audit or a quality improvement project on a surgical problem, trying to innovate a way out of it, or to try and innovate as the solution, only to be hit by roadblocks. And I realized that actually working on the front line gives you a really fantastic point of view of the day-to-day problems, of the pinch points and the pain points. But what it doesn't provide you necessarily, unless you're in the right environment, is the ability and the tools to be able to follow that through to creating an innovation to solve that original pinch point or pain point.
Yep.
And when I discovered the health tech industry through the likes of the clinical entrepreneurship program or my mentors and colleagues within health tech like Elliott Street, I discovered that actually you can push forward innovations done in the right way, done in a business orientated manner. gone through formal processes and been focused on providing that solution, it can be done.
Yep.
And that's what attracted me to the industry. And here I am sitting with you in a beautiful, sunny day outside, podcasting about our experiences.
I was gonna say, I think this is the sunniest it's been in the UK since I've been here, as you guys can see.
There is sun. You just need to look past the clouds.
But no, for you guys to really hear that, like, I want to take a moment to just touch on how into when David says medtech and like industry and innovation is his passion. It truly is. Like the amount of conversations that we've had and the amount of times that we've spent just being able to have discussions about what's going on in the industry, what could be improved, what our mission is even at Innovis, and why we're both with the company. But the reason I say that is I've never seen somebody so passionate about healthcare, about studies, about the relationships. Because every time I'm talking to you, you're doing a new pilot study, you're doing something new, you're working with interns, helping them. Like even when the thing that I just think about is our last trip, like we're in Manchester we're there for the office meetings and that we had, but we're going in the hotel elevator and you're on the phone with all the interns trying to talk to them.
I know, man.
And I
appreciate that.
And try to discuss it. And so that's the thing is like, I just tell you guys another reason why I'm so proud to be at Innovis, but to be with people like yourself who you truly love what you do, you're truly passionate about it, and you're an A player. And that's why I love being around you, man, is like, it's being able to grow with people. But when I tell you, like, you guys who are watching this, when you talk about somebody who's like serious in this world of like education and actually clinically and bringing in innovation to that world of medtech, I haven't met someone as intense as you.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
Because it's the truth.
It's right back at you, mate. You're an inspiration within the company. You're always, I noticed on these conferences, you're always the first to get up and to get us going. So your energy and your motivation is infectious in a good way, and I'm right back at you, mate. You're an inspiration. So thank you for your kind words.
I appreciate that, man. That. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I think, look, one of the most important things you've got to understand in the industry, and I'm sure Elliot, being the CEO and our leader in this company, can echo this, which is that the team is so crucial. Yeah. A lot of the things that we do as a team, we do it together and we're successful as a result of working as a team. And I think, especially with some of the projects, as you rightly say, there are literally like 20 things going on at once all over the world. Yep. I wouldn't have been able to get them across the line if it wasn't for those interns. I was on the phone to Hannah, one of my interns this morning, trying to sort out one of our upcoming pretty powerful studies on basic surgical skills, and just the sheer amount of like passion and energy that they provide me is amazing as well. So I can't, we all can't work without our teams, and I actually really look forward to expanding this team. Yep. Making the clinical excellence team within Innovis, a really quite high functioning unit, and doing even more than we're doing now, which is, it's interesting to think about that, but we got our work cut out for ourselves, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna be hanging on. But the one thing I do just want to echo real quick on that is just for you all listening, whether you're trying to break into the industry, whether you are in the industry, I think this is something I had to learn when I first broke into the industry was I felt like it was me on my own. I had to go prove myself. I had to do this. Jacob, right? And like we still do a lot of things, but now it's like, again, we have our business, new to medical device sales. It's a company. It's not me. It's the same thing with Innovis being here at Innovis. It's when like the deal I was able to just land, that wasn't just me. It took you were on calls, Ellie was on, like it was a team effort. So whenever there's the success, it's never just one person. I think once you start putting the company and the team in front of yourself, that's when you will actually start having the most success inside your industry, inside your company, inside your career. Because again, so many people, I just want to touch on this real quick, is one thing I've learned being a leader, CEO and stuff like that of my own stuff is like, it's easy to point fingers. But then the hardest finger is to point right back at yourself. True. And that's the thing I've learned the most is when you're doing this, it's a team effort. But going back to the reps that maybe you're in the industry or you're going to come into it. For example, if you're trying to break into the industry and you didn't want to interview, every single person I talk to points fingers at the companies of why they didn't break in. And I can always, like our students in our course, I always say, what did you do wrong? What did you miss? Because it's easy to point the finger, but do the self-reflection. No different than when you're actually in the industry. If a surgery went wrong, it's so easy to blame the nurse. It's to blame the surgeon. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. But should you have been doing another in-service? Should you have been doing another training? Should you have got there earlier? Should you have met, like, there's so many things that's what's helped me in my success of growing in med device sales, is just taking extreme ownership in everything in life, not just in med device sales, but outside of it. But once you are in it, just understand it's not just about you at the whole point. It's when you have a team, you're growing together. And so I just wanted to echo what you just said there, because that is such a big point. I think what helps us at Innovis is we've seen it. Like, if you're selfish, if it's only about you at all times, it's just probably not going to work out.
Absolutely. It's not part of our values, attitude, excellence, and ethic, as Elliot says. And I think one of the key core functions of us as a company relies on there being good, constructive teamwork and accountability at the same time. And I think accountability is an interesting thing, because you always think it's there because you have a senior that's looking at you or breathing down you or whatever. And that may be the case, but that's not always the productive, positive way that people think about accountability. Actually, we should be accountable to ourselves. You're absolutely right. Even if it means getting up early, like yourself. And then, doing your plan for the day, and then getting out into the gym. And if that is something that you just say you're going to keep putting off for whatever reason, it's only you that's going to suffer. You're not accountable to yourself. No one's going to say, oh, you're neglecting your body, or you're neglecting what you're eating, and therefore you're not going to live as longer. No one's going to tell you that. Maybe your GP or a general practitioner or whatever, once or twice in your lifetime, but they're not going to do that every morning for you. So it's you that has to do that to yourself. And I think as soon as you become your own best manager, positively and constructively, I think the sooner that you are successful in this industry, especially in the reps, and this is what I've noticed working in the US and the UK, the reps are autonomous, they're hardworking, they are self-starters. And if they aren't, then they're the ones we don't see. They're the ones that lose
They're not going to win.
They're not going to win, exactly. And I'll give you an example. I won't name any names, but there was a hospital recently that utilized equipment from one major manufacturer for a particular specialty. And the consultant, the key decision maker for that equipment within the hospital, had a good relationship with two reps, one from that company and one from another company, a competitor. For whatever reason, that rep from the supplier, the current manufacturer, didn't maintain that relationship well.
They got comfortable.
They got comfortable. They weren't turning up all the time. They weren't checking on the equipment. Some of the equipment wasn't always working, and the rep wasn't always there, wasn't always responsive when stuff went wrong. And that KDM noticed, and immediately, click of a finger, made the switch. The whole hospital has switched over to a new med device company.
And why? Because that other one who had the relationship continued to check in, follow up, show up, care. When they responded or sent them a text or an email, they were timely with it. Right? It's 1,000%.
And not just that, not just timely, not just being responsive, but being honest as well.
Bam.
I think a lot of reps that we understand in surgery, especially as surgeons, right? This is where we're not even working with the med device industry. We understand that when we're doing a particular operation, there's 100 ways to skin a cat. There could be different devices all over the shop. Some devices not as good as others, and when you have one device, maybe their kit is great, but the actual device isn't. There's so many complexities and nuances to this. But the main thing is that we have reps, and the best reps that stick in my mind are the ones that are honest about their equipment. This is great, and the whole setup is perfect, but this particular device, it's not that great. I know it keeps breaking. We're doing our very best. I'm feeding it back, but at least he understands that. There's a communication, or she understands it. There's a communication, and there's an ability to pick up on the frustrations the surgeon might have.
1,000%.
And that will help you retain that contract.
1,000%, because you're actually owning it. Because I see this all the time in new reps and just even reps that have been in a while. Everything's perfect. Welcome to life. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Like, nothing is absolutely perfect. But the people who try to act like it's absolutely perfect, oh, my device, you comes off very salesy. Oh, then that's what they don't like. I can just sit here and tell you guys, at my prior companies, there was a device I sold, and the setup was just challenging. And like literally what I came from the lowest performing territory in the country with it. And instead of being like, I heard it 1,000 times, they didn't like the setup. So even when I talked to them, I didn't try to be like, oh, the setup's this, because it's not going to do anything. I would go to the common ground and be like, yeah, I know our stuff sucks to set up, and it's an absolute pain in the butt. And they would look at me and they'd be like, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But then we had the common ground, and then I'd be like, yeah, I'm so sorry, but just know I'm always here for you guys. Bam. And then they trusted me because they knew I was a human being. And it's making yourself a human being, not the sales rep.
This is it.
And so that's the big thing. And then I just need to touch on this point because you said it, but I've said this before, but I need to get this out. Accountability. People will see somebody and they'll see confidence, like myself. Confidence is not just something you're born with. Confidence is something you build. And what the confidence is it's you keeping promises to yourself.
Yeah.
And so I just say that is like David's witnessed it. If I say I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and we're going to bed at 11 or 12 a.m. and it's like I'm getting up because I need to get my workout in because otherwise I'm not going to get it in because we're going to work a 14-hour day. Like my butt gets up at 5 a.m. Let me just say, it's the last thing I want to do. I'd rather sleep another 2 hours, but I'm keeping to it. So it's the people, like I always say this, if you told yourself you're going to read 10 pages at night and it's 11 o'clock, the people who will be more confident is the person who's like, I'm tired, but I told myself I'm going to do it. And this is something I just need you guys to think about real quick, and then we'll get back into it. But like, do you treat yourself as you treat friends? And for example, if you had a friend who you're like, let's go out to dinner, and you said, let's meet at 6, and they showed up at 6:10, you'd kind of be a little disrespected. You'd be like, you don't really think my time's that fair. But then if they showed up late continuously, and then a couple times they just no-showed you, would you still hang out with that friend?
Probably not.
And the answer is yeah, no. But we do that every single day to ourselves. Oh, I'm going to go work out. Oh, I'm going to call my friends. Oh, I'm going to go read some pages, or I'm going to do something for my work, and then you don't. You watch Netflix, you do something.
You're letting yourself down.
Bam. And so how can you trust yourself? I can sit here and tell you being a personal trainer and doing it and just now coaching so many people in med device sales. You want to know the difference between the people who succeed and the people who don't succeed? It's the easiest thing. The people who say they're going to do what they're going to do or said what they're going to do and they actually do it, those are the people who will have all the success in the world. Because you take the emotion out of it. Sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes it sucks. Like I can sit here and tell you when you have family things going on, you have outside world, for goodness sake, man, you're a brand new father. You're not getting much sleep.
Nope.
You're traveling a lot. You miss your family. But guess what? Work sometimes doesn't care about that. Like there's deadlines, right? And so it's being able to separate the emotion with what the goal is and what you're doing. And so I just wanted to say that because whether you're trying to break in, whether you're already in, it's being able to be accountable to yourself. And going back to that last thing is just focusing on yourself of like, hey, can you show up for you every single day? Can you see the goals that you want to do and actually do it even when you don't feel like it, even when you got yelled at, even when whatever it is. And so I just wanted to state on that because we're going to talk more about med device sales. We'll go into your experiences with UK reps and USA reps. But like the thing is just you're like that. I see it. The people at our business in Innovis are like this. It doesn't matter if they're in the product engineering, if they're in the sales, if they're in the clinical. I see it all around. Our CEOs, our CTOs, like Elliot and Jordan, like they're the same. It's like if it said it's going to get done, it's going to get done. Like I even want to give a shout out to Darby. Like I talked with him at the Christmas party, and like you talk about an absolute killer of a guy who just like gets it done and puts it. And like I literally, this is one thing I'll just say to you. He's one of our programmers, and I'll just say this real quick is, I said, so how many hours do you work when it's done? He's like, I do it till it gets done. And that is just, that is the,
it's a very good
that
answer.
is the best answer I've ever heard. And so I just want to say that to you all that are listening when I hear everybody who's like, oh, how many hours am I going to work? Or, oh, what's the work-life balance? You can look at those things and I understand it. But if that's the main focus all the time, you might not want to look at this industry. So yeah, I just wanted to go on that because the confidence, the accountability, that's the bigger things that are going to lead, whether you do med device sales, you're a surgeon, what you do business, or you just do life. Yeah. Like that goes into it. But
I think on that note, it's good to mention this because this is a notion that crosses both industries, surgeons, reps, and anyone that's working in health tech. To be honest, there was a podcast I was listening to recently. I'll send you the link where it's talking about the balance between competence and humility. Mm-hmm. And certainly in surgery, if you come across as a surgeon that is just ultra competent, right, with no humility at all, he might be a good surgeon, she might be a good surgeon, but you'll slightly doubt their accountability.
Yep.
Maybe you'll doubt if something went wrong, what would this person be like?
Yep.
Okay. And conversely, on the other end of the spectrum, if you have someone that's so humble as a surgeon, would you trust them? Would you trust them with your life?
I messed up a couple times, but here, let me just tell you about it.
No, but as in, if they don't emanate competence at all, it's like, okay, I'm not sure if I want to be under his knife, right?
Yeah.
So you've got two ends of the scale, competence and humility, or being humble, and it's about finding that balance. And this is exactly that point, knowing that perhaps you work for you've landed a job at one of the best medical device companies in the world,
Yep.
and you've now been tasked. This is literally your story, right? Been tasked with selling one of the difficult cells in the worst region.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you go about that? You went around. You were humble about the situation. I'm new to the industry. I know this is a difficult device, but you worked around it. You started to become creative with
Yep.
working around it and utilized your EQ to balance the humble and the competence
Mm-hmm.
that lies within you, or that you've been trained in,
Yep.
to be able to find that path. And I think that's something that we don't look into that often. We think being humble is not that quality that's attractive by any means, and we also think that competence is something that we must attain.
Yep.
But actually, it's about finding that balance. And I just wanted to include that piece.
Yeah,
as
no,
well.
that is such a good point. And to that point, real quick, is that the device I sold, like where I was at with Medtronic, it was a great device. I absolutely loved it, and it worked great. It was just more of like, just like surgeons, or when they've never seen it before, or it's the staff, it can be difficult. So just being able to own with them, no matter what you have, a car or anything, there's always going to be things that people don't understand. If they don't
True.
take the time, it's going to be challenging. But yeah, it's just being able to be a human being. But yeah, now switching into, so you had the fortunate opportunity of actually operating here in the USA.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And then also being in the UK. So can you kind of just tell from that experience, what was kind of the main difference that you saw between reps in the US and in the UK?
I think, look, I've got to give a caveat here. The small print is that I've operated in Johns Hopkins, been involved in a clerkship there, and all the way in California in a very, very underserved area. I've seen like the full spectrum of
Yep.
the best surgeries in the world versus in the US versus probably the most ghetto place to
Challenging,
work in.
yeah.
Challenging, but even better word. But I have seen the spectrum, and likewise I've seen the spectrum in the UK. I've worked in the middle of nowhere in the UK, and I've worked in very prestigious places in the UK. I've seen the full spectrum, and I've got to say, one of the things that really strikes me the most in the US is that it doesn't matter where you are, the reps are always turning up, or at least trying to. Mm-hmm. And that's what I really respected out there. Not only are the reps an integral part of the pre-operative planning, which tools we need, what size tools we need for this patient, etc., implants in orthopedics, whatever it might be, but also in the perioperative care, they are there. I noticed, what I absolutely loved was they're there with their lasers.
We're laughing because we talked about this for like 25 minutes one day because he was going off about how much he loved the laser pointers.
I just love the attention to detail that a lot of these reps had in orthopedics. They had these green lasers, which is obviously the color you can see against red. It's one of the reasons why we use blue drapes and blue scrubs, because the blue is the opposite to red. And when we look at the blue, it balances our rods and cones out, so we can see the different shades of red a little bit better when we're operating. So again, having a green laser, I don't think you can have, like, it's blue or purple, isn't it? But I've seen green a lot, and it helps identify structures or instruments under a time pressure situation. And I noticed only the Americans seem to have this. And I really loved that little touch, right? And not only are they there pre and peri, but post-operatively as well. They are there checking that there's no problems with the implants further down the line. Not only that, but actually assessing the situation, being like, how did today's surgery go?
Yeah,
How did you find your
exactly.
tray?
Yep.
Did you find you need these instruments or no? Did you find any of them blunt? I just loved the proactive questioning.
Yeah.
And actually, some of the surgeons I worked with found that annoying sometimes. Some of them are like, they're probably because they're just taking it for granted.
Yeah.
Coming from the UK, where we don't have that level of rep involvement, I was impressed, and I would love to have this conversation every day with the whole team, including the rep. The rep's part of the team, right? Especially in orthopedics, where we just have like 4 or 5 trays per operation. So I was just blown away by that, and I've got to say, I think a lot of that is not only based on the number of reps the US has per, I guess, patient, right, compared to the UK, but also I imagine probably the remuneration package as well pushes that.
Yep.
You know, I've heard about the UK reps not being paid as much as the US, and I think that is a challenge in itself.
Yep.
The same applies for everyone working in healthcare.
Yep.
Right? We can talk about that all day. There are junior doctor strikes going on right now.
As we speak.
Quite literally because of it. But that's besides the point. I think what's important to know is that the results speak for themselves. Regardless of what the remuneration is or how they get there, when you show that level of energy, effort to turn up for the entire patient journey in theatres, there's benefits to everyone, including the rep. Because the rep's then going to be able to close more deals, be able to solidify
the
that
relationships.
contract, exactly. So I bring that over to the UK now. You know, some of the reps I've met in the UK are blindingly amazing. I've got to say, I'm just rate the fact you've driven 4 hours to be here, and you know, she's got to go around to other sites across the country. But that's exactly the problem. Is that's a long drive. They have big catchment areas. There's nowhere near as many of them. And as a result, they're more stretched, and they're unable with their remuneration to be able to do the same as the States. And so I understand, and I think we have a lot to learn from the States, not only for the rep industry, the medtech industry, but also from a healthcare perspective. Yes, things are slightly different in terms of the healthcare structure. We'll go into that. But I think one of the most important things is the attitude and the energy. That is like recurrent across the whole board. It was 5 a.m. breakfast rounds at Johns Hopkins. It was 6 a.m. quick ward round. The breakfast was on house, by the way. You don't hear of that in the UK. All right, so free breakfast at 5. We do a board round. We go over to do the ward rounds, and then at 7 a.m. we've got the trauma meeting, right? That means by 8 a.m. we are actually scrubbing in for theatres. You contrast that to the other side of the pond. 8 a.m. is usually the trauma meeting. There's nothing beforehand. It may be a handover at 7:45, right? There's nothing going on beforehand. So all the information we've got to deal with for the day is happening at 8. By 8 in the US, we've dealt with all the different types of information. The stuff from the handover, the stuff that's coming overnight, the stuff that's happening on the wards, and the stuff that's happening in theatres that day. So by 8, we are hitting the ground running. We're ready to go. We operate for 8-9 hours. We have a post-operative ward round. And then we're at book club or a team dinner or something like that, again, on the house. Again, something we don't have in the UK. It's a completely different system. And I think because the entire team runs on that energy, it means that even the reps, means even the nurses, the PAs, the surgical care practitioners, everyone's operating that level. And I just love that. It's an infectious energy that I was honestly, I 6 weeks in Johns Hopkins, I felt like I needed a holiday afterwards. I was so exhausted. But I saw what working at that level was really like.
And you saw the teamwork. I think that's the biggest thing that you get. And again, I can't speak to the UK, but I can say this is like when you find your accounts that you like. My top account that I was able to go and grow into in my previous role, I knew everybody's name. I knew everybody's relationships. Like we would just go and just talk about life. But the whole thing is I was there to make their life easier. And like they saw that in the value that you could add. And then it made this like well-oiled machine because again, the number one thing I will always tell you guys, the most important thing as a rep is the patient on the table. The device that you sell. Is that your mom, your dad, your sister, your grandma, your grandpa, whoever it is. If you focus on that, that's why you do it. I get so annoyed so many times when I hear people, oh, it's this or the money or whatever. And it's great. Like I got it. But the thing is if you're in surgery, if you're in the OR, take all the other stuff. Who's the person on the table? Because I've seen people who are selfish and they'll talk about their device and they're, I didn't make an extra $1,200 or whatever on the sale. What about the guy on the table or the woman on the table? They didn't get the best operation that they could have. And like there's nothing worse than watching a surgery where something didn't go right and they're like, they're going to have to come back in.
Yeah.
take more time in, more anesthesia, all this stuff and all that. So I just want to touch on that part because like when you doing exactly what you said, it's that focus on like the teamwork, and it is a very high energy. The one thing I also want to touch on is talking about the compensation and going into that, because this is a common thing in America, right? Is like everyone knows it's why they're interested in medical device sales, where that's one of the things we talk about in the program. It's, if you're in medical device sales, most likely you're in the top 10% of Americans. Like financially, it's a great living, but you work for it. You've seen it, just like the surgeons in the U.S. You're working the long hours and all that stuff. But the reason I'm saying that is just like we talked about. It is because America's for profit.
Yeah.
It's a business, right? And I think that's where a little the difference, especially like with you in the NHS and all that. Because for example, I can say this from experiences. We've been in surgeries, and then I saw the bill they gave the patients, and there's 600 to 1,000% markup.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
crazy.
And this is the thing. I'll just sit here and tell you, because these are the most common messages I get, and metrics hate on TikTok and Instagram and all that. Med device is the reason insurance is high. No, the hospital is the reason.
Yeah.
Because in America, I can tell you, I would sell a device and certain things, and our bill would be under $700, and they'd be getting charged $7,000 to $8,000 from the same thing we just did. Yeah. And then what happens is then the insurance agrees to pay it. And then that's where this whole thing, I can say it because like my mom got a stent in her heart, 2 stents in her heart, and she's like, oh, I got $90,000 bill. Right? And that's not in the NHS, it's different. And so the reason I'll just tell you all that, and I wanted to just kind of maybe shed some light on it, is like, we'll see, like, I know I was just in Italy, right? Like their healthcare is different than America and here, right? So it's, you just go in there and you change. And I think that's where like the compensation is going to continue to change just because of where it's at. Now, I'm not saying that's right or that's wrong. Yeah. It's just, that's where I can usually see maybe the UK doesn't make the same as the US.
You're absolutely right. It's look, at the end of the day, the UK is it's a capitalist country like the States, but the health system is not a capitalist system. It's a socialist system. It's designed to have a free, at the point of service, healthcare for everyone. Doesn't matter who you are, right? Now, different health systems employ different variances of this. I'd say the US is quite alone in the fact that it's one of the only systems where it's not free at the point of healthcare or free at the point of delivery. And what you have is several different systems going on where it's mainly driven by insurance. Insurance drives how treatment is managed. Insurance drives the price of treatment. And insurance drives who gets the treatment. And amongst other things. And so it can be an inequitable problem at the end of the day, because then you have people that can't afford it not having access to healthcare. But conversely, when there are emergencies, they still have the access, but they can't pay it. And as a result, the hospitals, I understand, increase the prices to those that can pay to slightly absorb those that can't. And, and I've seen it. I've seen it before in orthopedics, especially, hip replacements that in reality cost around 10 grand are being marked up a huge amount for whatever reason. And you're absolutely right. There's more money flowing in the system, and that's probably why the remuneration is higher. And that's one of the things that can be a double-edged sword. Because on one side, yes, you've got now, you don't have in the UK, for example, we have NICE, National Institute of Clinical Excellence. They're the ones deciding the guidelines, who has access to the treatments and how they get the treatments. And with that, a lot of treatments won't be available on the NHS, and therefore they'd have to go somewhere to the state, like the States, to get that treatment, or into the private sector in general. And as a result, we have this slight imbalance in that in the UK we'll only do things if it's absolutely necessary, and it is a form of damage control rather than preventative medicine, right? Whilst in the US, a lot of things are happening when they don't need to be happening. Whether that's with the hat of preventative medicine, I'm not so sure. It's probably because, there's a mixture of, well, money likes to flow, and surgeons like to cut, and reps like to sell. So guess what happens? Someone ends up with a hip replacement probably a little bit earlier than they should have done. I'm not saying that happens across the board in the States, and I don't want to ruffle too many feathers, but it's true. People like to operate. Surgeons like to operate, and things like to be sold.
Like, especially this is the thing everyone needs to understand. And again, this isn't a bad thing. It just is what it is. It's surgeons in the US, business.
That's it.
It is a business. And that's what people miss is healthcare in the US, it's a business. it's for profit. Like I can just sit here and tell you, like I was in Arizona, which most people like. It's very different when you can go to states, and they're very different. But for example, like a lot of the people I used to work with, like if I went to another state, a lot of them were at a hospital and they were employed by the hospital.
Yes.
Right. Compared to in Arizona, it was more private practice, and so they'll rent time out at a hospital. And then they'll go, but they're still charging their prices and they're getting what they need to. They just rent time from a hospital, but it's more for profit, right? And so now if they're filling their schedule, they are getting it. Like I can sit here and tell you, it's always cracked me up. I remember like there was people doing free trials with our stuff. And then I would sit there and he would be like, oh, this is so expensive. We were the most affordable on the market. He's like, oh, this is so expensive. He's like, I got to put my kids, I got to have them stop eating ramen noodle at some point. And what he didn't understand was I was sitting to the left 3 seats working on my computer while he was talking. He had just talked how he just bought a brand new Tesla and a brand new fifth wheel RV. And so you guys can do the math on your own.
More money, more problems.
Yeah, exactly. But then like for example, being the stingy businessman, oh, I can't afford this device. It's too much. But the reason I'm just saying that we're laughing, I want you guys to see it's not like everyone will just shoot that to like med device. It's surgeons too, right? It's the whole like because again, you look at even like first year attendings in America compared to talking with you and talking with like some of our colleagues who know the surgeons, like they don't even make enough to live first year, which is why they are on strikes this year or right now, right? So it's not just like the rep. It's all of it together. And so I think this is a conversation I never even thought we would ever have on a podcast, just because it's kind of like shedding some light and most likely it'll ruffle some feathers. But hey, if you ain't getting some talk, what are you doing with your life?
Well, that's it. Look, at the end of the day, like if you just look at it from a macroeconomic point of view, right? We've got buildings. If you just look at the health system in the US, you've got such a variety of health systems. You've got multiple residency programs, so there's training is not managed by one body, unlike the UK. The insurance systems or who manages who gets what treatment is by different providers. Again, unlike the UK, it's all managed by one entity. So what you get is competition as a result, and that competition can spread within surgical teams, within hospital networks, within rep networks even. And so competition, when we look at it from a business perspective, when we read about the books of competition and co-opetition, it encourages innovation. It encourages excellence, right? Whilst you go across the pond, there isn't competition for how people are trained. There isn't competition really, even within the reps, okay? A lot of accounts are legacy, and a lot of the accounts are through very, very large procurement silos, where there's so many layers of decision-making before you get to the pot of money. So a lot of it is maintenance of relationships. There isn't much competition at all between healthcare provision because it's one provider. So what you don't have is that drive towards excellence. And I will ruffle some feathers by saying this. The healthcare systems in the UK celebrate mediocrity. They don't celebrate excellence. And if you are excellent in the UK, you stick your head above the parapet naturally, and therefore you are a target.
A target, You
either get more stuff thrown on you or you get shot down and put in your place. And I've witnessed it personally. I've spoken about this on a podcast in the past. So many colleagues I know talk about this. And so this is one of the dangers of the UK health system, in that if we keep going in that direction, we lose the world-class edge, which is, at the end of the day, the UK is far more efficient as a system in delivering care to a population than the US, because there's so much less money, but we're still actually doing a pretty good job, even though there are, at the moment, 6.8 million people waiting on the waiting list, and around 130,000 of those are dying every year whilst waiting on the waiting list, which is pretty nuts in itself. But a lot of that's because of COVID, a lot of that's because of political issues. And that is improving. I know people that are working on that. The likes of the Royal College of Surgeons, Stella Vig, and NHS England are doing fantastic work to try and fix that problem, despite maybe not the same amount of support from the government. But nonetheless, to stay apolitical here, my worry is that if we keep going down that route, we celebrate mediocrity, and that's not a good thing. So, I've got to say to anyone that's joining into the UK health system, whether it's as a rep or whether it's as a surgeon or whether it may be as a PA or a nurse or whatever, is to promote excellence and to always be the top of the top and show everyone how it should be in a competent and humble way. That's the most important way. But we can look to other health systems, by the way. Might as well talk about it whilst we're here. You know, you go to the Nordics, perhaps you go to parts of Europe where you have, France is a very interesting system. You get given health credits or credits, universal credits, and you can use those credits for education, for health, or for help with living at home. You know, it's like support. It could be child support or disability allowance or whatever. And those credits can be passed within your family. So say if, you know, someone needs those credits for a, you know, long-term disease, you can pass them to that person. They can cash in those credits. That's a very interesting
That's
system.
interesting.
And then you've got the Nordics where it's free at the point of delivery, but all the hospitals are brand new. Well, they're all private. Most of them are private.
Yeah.
They're owned by private companies. They're run as private businesses, but they receive money essentially from the government via a national insurance system. Germany has a national insurance system that allows for it's like car insurance. Everyone needs car insurance, so everyone needs health insurance. But if you can't afford it, if it's means tested, you can't afford it, then the government will support you with that private health insurance. It's not like a Medicare, Medicaid scenario. Yeah. It's like, we'll help you get private health insurance. You see? So that means all the hospitals are private, everything's like tip-top, everyone's working at excellence level, there's the right amount of money flowing in the system, and you haven't got price gouging by insurance companies because you've got the government breathing down their necks, because at the end of the day, the government are going to have to pay for those that can't afford it. Do you see? So there's like a nice layer of accountability in there. There's so many different ways to skin a cat when it comes to healthcare. Yep. And in my opinion, I don't think any country has got it 100% right. Yeah. And I wonder if we need to look to the future and applying AI and the balance of human knowledge.
Now you're going to get people going.
Who knows? Who knows? It's kind of like the Black Mirror episode with the yogurt, you know?
Well, I'm dying because I was talking to a person and they brought up AI and they're like, it was one of the residents and they're like, this is how they take over, man. This is it. So the moment you start putting AI out there, people get a little funny.
You need to see, if you haven't seen it, the Black Mirror episode on the yogurt, the probiotic yogurt. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I love it. Well, hey, man, I really do want to touch on this, though, is when you were a surgeon and you still do a little bit of operating, it's like, what do you look for in your reps? I know we talked a little bit about the difference of the U.S. and the U.K. and stuff, but what do you, as a surgeon, and from your colleagues, because you have a lot of friends who are surgeons, what have you seen been like the things that stand apart from the good ones compared to what you guys go in and talk trash about this rep? Because we all know that happens.
We never do that.
Yeah, exactly. But what does that look like? What separates a really good rep compared to like the things maybe to stay away from?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the green laser pen. Make sure you have a green laser pen, and if it's made of metal, even better, because then we'll just be impressed, right? Have the green laser pen. Get involved with those three important aspects or phases of surgery. So that's the preoperative planning, the perioperative care, so being in the theatres, and the postoperative analysis. Okay, you might not be analysing the patient, how they're doing. It's worth asking, though, but asking, were the trays okay? Was the layout okay? Was there any equipment that were damaged? If you go for that structure, that pre, peri, and post-operative care structure, you won't miss a thing. Yep. And the surgeons will pick up on that. Another thing that we actually did recently within our company was figure out a way to communicate quickly. The surgeons are in short, they're short of time. They have no time, in fact. So if you're going to communicate, try and communicate using their language. We use the S-bar. I'll have you look it up in your own time, S-B-A-R.
You're well, Elliot. He's so proud of it.
And Elliot made us do this within our own company recently, thanks to Emma, because Emma's an ex-midwife, and that's how she likes to communicate anyway. She's
and it's very good.
Like that.
Yep.
And actually, it's such a great way to communicate in general. It didn't even come from the healthcare industry. It came from the military.
Yep.
It came from was it RAF or Air Force? I don't remember.
It was something military is what I remember.
Something military, yeah. So it's an excellent way of communicating. So communicating how they like to communicate in their language. Yep. If that means you need to go away and read about anatomy of the particular operations that you cover, if that means going and watching videos of how it's done, you should really know the optics inside out. But if you are able to engage with that peri-operative process properly and the pre-operative planning, I think this size cup should be a little bit changed because I understand perhaps the anatomy is a little bit larger, and you understand those elements, and then you can take that into the theatre and be like, that's a great dissection that you're doing there of X or
Yep.
structure Y, or perhaps have you thought about using this tool rather than that tool? That creative thinking can start to come out once you know the bread and butter.
Yep.
And there are so many tools for this. So I'd recommend going to Teach Me Surgery, Teach Me Anatomy.
Yep.
These are both websites that are available on Google. They're actually made by UK medics, and there's stuff like Ackland's anatomy videos, which are really fantastic. Touch Surgery, now owned by Medtronic, is that right?
Yep.
They have these incredible animated cartoons of pretty much every operation. They might not be instrument specific, but they do go into different approaches and different ways to do the same operation, which may cover your instruments. And I think it's really important to just learn all that stuff inside out. Try and think like a surgeon.
Bam.
Even the little things that these are the non-technical skills now.
Yes.
So the little things like being there early with the team, being there for the brief in the morning. So this is like the first huddle that we do in the morning. Even, I don't know if your budgets allow this, but most of the time, if you just ask, the surgeon will throw money at you anyway. Just saying, can I grab coffee for everyone? If you've got 5 minutes, I know it's like you shouldn't be doing it.
Well, in America, you get a budget, and as long as you get a name list.
Really?
Oh yeah, so like when you're in America, you get a budget, and you can go. The only thing is, you have to have names of every single human being, and they want a list of it. And let's just say, to any new reps out there or anybody who wants to be, you will make up a lot of names. I had you to go up to a name because I would have a lunch for 25 people. Half of them don't show up or whatever it is, and then it's like, yeah, now they're gonna come after me, run. But literally, they'll get it. But yeah, in America, you get a budget, depending on the company. You'll get a budget in doing that. But the one thing I do want to state is, I think that's going to be dependent on the surgeon you're with, just for the fact of there's a lot of surgeons we're not allowed in the pre-huddle. In certain industries, in certain divisions, right? And so for me, I wasn't able, and also they're like, this is surgeon only. Yeah. But to the point of still being up there, before they walked in, I would always go into the room, get that set up 15, 20, or whenever it allowed, come in, talk to them. But to your point, if you can grab a lunch or breakfast or something.
Get involved with the team is what I'm saying.
It's about making that relationship.
Exactly. Making that relationship, be part of the team.
Show you care.
Show you care. Go get them coffee or whatever it might be. If you have budgets, if you don't, trust me, the surgeon will throw you their card.
But even if you don't have budget, I just need to state this real quick because this is where people lose so much. It is absolutely incredible to me how, I get it all the time with people reaching out to me. Jacob, you do such great work. It's all free. Oh, thank you. I don't want to buy a $20 thing. And it's everybody wants the world, but they won't invest in it. And I just gotta state this is one time there was a guy who strength and conditioning coach when I was in strength and conditioning, he had the intern. The intern had his last $20 and he paid for everything. Wow. And because of that, he got the job. So again, that $20 actually invested into an actual career getting paid all the time. But it's absolutely hysterical how many people will shortchange things. Yeah. Want everything for free, AKA I'm a rep. Oh, my company won't pay for this, so I'm not going to go get a $12 cup of coffees. Yeah. It might be worth...
It's daunting. It's daunting if someone... You see that as a problem, you're like, what do I do? It's almost like a situational judgment test. What do I do? Do I put my own money down? You're absolutely right. I think it little goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And, if you're able to get that money back somehow later on, then fine. But I think... it's about that longer term vision.
Bam. Right? And just so you know, this is the thing. It always will come back. Whether you get that deal or you don't get the deal, first off, it was $12 or $18, whatever it is. But also, second off, it's the practices. I was just listening to an audiobook, and it was by Napoleon Hill and success, the 15 ways of success and all this good stuff. But it literally is your mind's a program. And you're programming it in the correct way, and you're always programming it. So even if you go forward this time, you're programming the brain to always do it in the future. That's it. And even if you don't make a return on investment right away, guess what? You do that in 2 years from now to the right person, it might change your life. And that's what I think is the biggest thing is you guys probably are hearing this, is that it's a common theme of it's not even so much the actual doing one thing, it's the habits that come with it. If you can just do it, what successful people do. But I just say that because you're just building that relationship, whether it returns itself or not. But I can sit here and tell you guys, before I had the job at one of my careers, or one of my with Medtronic, I literally went to a place, offered to buy the whole place lunch, It was going to be over $500. I wasn't even hired yet. I was in the third round of an interview process because I was, and this is just how my brain has always thought was, and just so you guys all know, this is when I made under $50K a year. So like $500 to me at the time was a lot, right? And so like that's what I'm just saying is like, but I knew if I could go there, if I could just learn, if I could get one doctor to just tell me maybe what they look for in a rep, because I didn't have that experience, that's where my brain's always gone. And so just going to that point real quick, I'm not sitting here because there's Sunshine Acts, there's all the things that there's certain things you just can't legally do in America. But what people miss is like, for example, it's hilarious where get the coffee, like the surgeons, it's going to help. But the one thing I need to just say this to people now is you guys will offer, like I learned this with like mentors. I have guys who are making $50,000 to $100,000 a month, right? And if I'm like, hey, can I take you to coffee? They'll be like, go fly a kite. You think my time's worth $7 for an hour? Right? Compared to like what people don't understand is if you just look at their ROI and like you want to learn from someone, like even when I was doing strength and conditioning, I literally was like, can I pay you $1,000 to learn from you? I like that's a lot of money, but and let me just state this. You want to know how many times they take it? Almost never.
Yeah. But it's the offer. It's
Bam!
the thought that counts.
I was just going to say, that is what it is. It's just putting it out there to say that you're humble enough. And hey, David, I know you're busy. I know you have a lot going on, and I appreciate your time. And I know your time is valuable. And I know you don't do things for free just because in life you just can't, because otherwise you won't see your daughter and you won't see your family. Okay, so let me offer to pay you. And a lot of times you'll probably be like, oh no. But like the reason I'm just saying that is so many people will reach out to me now and they see me running on the West and doing all this stuff, and then they'll be pissed off I can't get on a 10-minute call because you're being selfish because I have over 200 episodes and you want something for your quick situation, but we have stuff that we offer for it, but people don't want, oh, but that costs money. Yeah, welcome to life.
It's not just that it costs money. You know, your quick 10-minute opinion might not be that good or constructive if you haven't got the full backstory.
Bam.
If you actually, ring fence some time with that person that you're trying to get hold of, whether you're paying them or bribing them with caffeine, whatever it might be, actually having that healthy transactional relationship is really important. I say this a lot because I coach people moving from the medical world into the health tech industry. And I do the same thing, which is if you're trying to get, say, an experience with a company or trying to get a job, or they're trying to encourage them to open the side or back door for you to make a job for you, or even just getting onto a call for an hour with the CEO of a company that you really love, right? You're messaging them through LinkedIn. You've got to understand that there is a healthy balance and healthy relationship when it comes to these interactions.
Yeah.
Offering what you can provide, whether that's your skills, whether that's money, whether that's coffee.
Yep.
But also making it clear, what do you want? Can I just have 10 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour to sit down with you? We can get lunch, I can get you lunch or whatever. If it's a Teams call, look, if you want me to cover a particular cost of that time, or say, look, actually, I have like literally made 5 pages of notes on your product, and I think I might be able to help you improve your product, right? Whatever it is that you're offering, be upfront with that and be direct with what you want. And you'll notice a lot of the time that'll be far more successful in opening those doors. And if you have nothing to offer, this is what's really important.
Get them.
If you have nothing to offer, and you have nothing that you want, say that this is just someone that you just want to chat to and just get to know. Like literally understand who they are and how they got to where they were. For your own interest, perhaps. Just say to them, I have no agenda. I actually just want to get to know you. And I'd love to spend time with you. So be honest with that as well. Obviously not in a weird way, but I think it's worth being honest about, and comes to the accountability piece, being honest about what you want from that interaction with that person.
Exactly.
Goes such a long
way. Clear communication. But the one thing I will say is, because I know how this works, you'll watch this, then you'll send that to us, and then we'll be like, sorry, we just don't have time. You'll be like, well, you told me to. Like, welcome to sales. There's not enough time in the day, and like, do that, but you're going to send that message to 100 people and maybe 10 take you up on it, right? Like that's just life. But the one other thing I just have to say is going back to the value I just want to real quick touch on is like a plumber in America. You'll have something clogged. They'll come in and spend 4 minutes and they'll still charge you $500. And you'll be like, what? It took you 4 minutes. You didn't pay for the 4 minutes. You paid for the 20 years of experience prior to that so we could do it in 4 minutes.
That's it.
And that's like going back to surgeons. We talk about this all the time. Would I rather go under the knife if I'm paying out of pocket with the brand new surgeon because he's cheaper? Or would I rather go with the person who's done 10,000 of the procedures I'm about to do? I'm going to pay more because I know that they've done it. And
It's a no-brainer.
Exactly. So
The irony is that how is the new surgeon going to learn?
exactly. Innovis and simulators, baby. Come on, plug for you, Elliot. But the whole conversation, I just wanted to put that out there because again, guys, have nothing from you. It's why we put all this stuff out here for free. But I want you guys to start thinking differently because this is what the top, like what we just talked about. There's certain things you did and I've done that these people are like, I never thought of that. But that was just what we've always thought about, even when nobody, quote unquote, taught us that. And it's just making you think differently to get to where you want to go. Because I think that's the common thing that we continue to talk about is like there's certain, once you get into, like I think about when I was in strength and conditioning, once you get to professional athletes, it's the little things that make the big difference. Because they're all doing pretty much the big things. But like, for example, I think of like Kobe back in the day and all this. Michael, like, what was the recovery time? What do they do in ice baths and workouts and stretching? And like, it was all the other things that they did outside of the actual game. And we look at surgeons as athletes. Like we talk about it at Innovis all the time. I look at reps as anything in life is an athlete. How do you prepare? How do you prep?
That's it.
How do you put in the work beforehand? And then now it's game day. Now it's theater. Now you're going into surgery. Now it's my day to be with you at surgery. How are we going to perform? And then that post, this is what people miss is like that whole conversation after every single surgery I ever had. Doc, what'd you think? And
love it.
Here's the whole conversation. If you saw that it went horrible, don't ask the question. You already know how it went. Because now you're opening up yourself to just get reamed. Right? You can go in and be like, Doc, I'm so sorry. But you can talk about some encouraging things. How can it be better? Bam. But the thing I just always want you guys to understand is like even now, I talk to David about this all the time and I know he's the same. Even when I get a sale done, like even the deal I just did, which was great and it's big and I'm like, it's my biggest in my life and I'm like, awesome. Not for a second did I go, I'm the best. Well, that was perfect.
That's your humility.
The whole thing is, the whole thing is like, I'm thinking, what next time? Unfortunately, we did have technical difficulties. The camera ended up dying on us. So we weren't able to get the last 5 minutes, but we will be having David back on. I just want to say thank you to David. Absolute honor. Absolutely amazing guy. If you guys haven't, make sure you go follow him on LinkedIn. And I hope this episode was helpful, just so you can see some of the differences that go on maybe in the UK compared to the USA and America and Europe and all that. And so I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this. If you guys haven't, press that like and subscribe button. If you could share this with somebody, it would mean the world to me. A 5-star review does help us grow this channel. And also, if you guys are really serious about breaking into medical devices, you can click the link below. We do have our course and we're always happy to help you guys. And if you guys would like to learn more, again, just click the link below. Or you guys can also reach out to me at Jacob McLaughlin or New to Medical Device Sales on LinkedIn. Also, we have all the other socials, again, putting all the free stuff out there. Again, the whole focus is just to continue to provide you all value. So I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I hope you all have a great end to 2023 and a great start to 2024.